this session, we will listen from our senior. From your long experience of working with community and you traveling the world to see a different model of development in the world. And during this time of a bit of like a fast changing chaos. So what do you think is the key learning that we can carry on?
Thank you very much. And I think I just wanted to kind of, in the context of the question that Nad asked, the first thing is, in my understanding, relate the community architects network, which is here now, I think, fairly strong group, to the larger processes, outside, because it's wonderful to be talking in terms of communities, talking in terms of slums, working with communities' processes in terms of their aspirations and their need to become integral part of the cities. I think there is a great need to look at this entire thing in the context of larger movement outside. And as a matter of fact, while I was listening to this story about you started, I was thinking about my own story. I'm an architect, and I dropped out from an architecture school way back in '68. And I dropped out, and I belong to a very prestigious school, School of Architecture, Ahmedabad, which now is a SEPT University. And I dropped out because I thought architecture education, which was being given to us, was highly elitist. That architects only work for the rich and the powerful. The architects had no relationship whatsoever with the larger challenges of the society. And as a matter of fact, architects had no relationship with the larger challenges of the sector itself. I thought this is not the kind of architecture I wanted to do. I came from a small village. I came from relatively poor family. And I said, I wanted to kind of be a different kind of architect. And the last year of the school, in fact, 4 months were left, I dropped out, went to villages, stayed there for 2 years, and built a whole village which was destroyed by floods. And then came back and started an NGO which he just mentioned. Now what is interesting is this. That was something like 45 years ago. 3 months ago, there was a major meeting in Bombay. It was a conference of countries' architects, and they had put together a kaleidoscope, an exhibition of last 40 years of architects' work. And I was one of the keynote speakers there. And in the group, there were about 150 architects and maybe about 50, 60 students. And I asked one small, simple question. And that was this, that how many out of 150 you are there who have heard about Indira Awas Yojana? Now this is the housing program in the country which over a period of 28 years, built 30 million houses. How many? 30 million houses for the poor villagers in the country. It is world's longest lasting and the biggest public housing program anywhere. And I was surprised to hear out of 200 people, only 10 raised their hands. They were all architects. A 20-year-old program under which 30 million houses are built, they are not even heard about. There's no, and that program's tragedy is this, that even though there was a huge political commitment, there's a longevity, that it's serving the need of the poor, and it's a badly needed program, but it's a badly executed program. A program which results are very bad. Not more than 10%, 15% houses are good, and therefore the program needed intervention, program needed correctives, program needed improvement. And the architects community did not know anything about it. So I said, look, I dropped out almost 50 years ago asking this question, that architect had no link with the society. The architect had no link with the societal challenges. 50 years down the line, it's almost the same. Almost the same. And therefore, when you ask this question, I'll come back again to talk about many other things, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is this, that what are the societal, in the urban context, what are the challenges we are facing? We are in Asia, and if I really have a time, I think I'll make a long presentation in terms of why are we probably absolutely in the wrong direction when it comes to dealing with urban challenge of this country, of this Asia region. So we are on the wrong track. That we require major correctives, we require major changes, we require major directional approaches in terms of how do we deal with it. Point that I'm trying to make is this, that that CAN movement, in a manner of speaking, is a rejection of the traditional. It's in a manner of speaking, it says, look, while you are talking about building big buildings, while you are talking about, I think, working for the rich, while you are working with the fancy architecture, we are very concerned about the poor, we are very concerned about slums, we are very concerned about the people living on canals, and we are going to work with that. It's a protest movement. And I think all protest movements require an ideology in order to sustain itself. It requires thought processes which binds us and attracts more people to come in. And I think today's session, the first session, when you're starting an almost a week-long workshop, is to look at this. What are those challenges? What is happening? And I think, because I'm in a habit of talking very long, and I have a huge history of ASA-CAN telling me not to talk too much. So, but I will come back after two more people have spoken, to come back and talk about what those challenges are and why we need to address them, and why we need to see them in the context of work that you are doing. I personally feel this work is not in isolation. This work has huge reverberation in the context of a wider societal challenges, be that urbanization, be that poverty alleviation, be that inclusive cities, be that sustainable cities, be that whole movement in terms of where we move. And therefore, and I think there are very solid currents and there are very solid connections. And I would like to talk about this the second time that I come over to talk. Thank you. So this was the first response, that this is not in isolation. This is part of a larger societal movement which requires correctives, which requires changes, which requires alternative thought, alternative vision, alternative perspective and new solutions.
Come back to you.
Yeah. First, I'm very thankful for the ASA-CAN and the CAN for involving the Philippines as one of their partners. So maybe I will share about our experience working with the Community Architects Network and then working with the Asian Coalition for Housing Rights. Our organization was started very self-reliant organization, doing the savings, building the community with women doing the savings. But 10 years after, we also confront by different issues in the community like demolitions, disaster. So it become more the federation become more stronger in terms of how we face these challenges in the community. So time count that there are this organization, the Community Architects Network, was being established, and I think there was a first time when we have this regional meeting in Shanghai. That was the first time, but the second time we have already involved the Philippines, and then we have done twice regional workshop in the Philippines, which gained a lot of victory for us. It's a victory because it's a lot of changes when the CAN was being there. So I think the learning is that if we give space to the community, let them become an architect also in their own way. It's a lot of progress in terms of the community's initiative. Like when the CAN was being in the Philippines, they're just facilitating all of these kind of activities, mapping, household enumerations, different technical aspect, but they're giving the process by facilitating only of the community. So that kind of process was a very big impact in the community. Even now, we are now facilitating, the federation is facilitating also how to do mapping and everything. So this mapping is a very big success story in the Philippines because now we are being recognized by different institutions like World Bank, the city government, the national government. That was not happening for many years ago, but because we show our force by demonstrating this kind of mapping process, now we've been recognized by the city. And it's also expanding. But the challenge still, even there is a good output, the government still not buying this process. Why? Because one city government tells us that if we are the politician, we want an output, an urgent output that can politicize them during the election. Like, we want building houses led by the government. But the process we have to do is we involve the community in identifying land, building their houses. But sometimes politicians want to give this as their way of politicizing the community. So our challenge now is to strengthen the community by doing this mapping, gathering information, because even politicians gone for 3 years, still communities there handle the information, and then they are the one take the initiative to realize those goals that we are want to do. Like what kind of project we want. Even the government will not support this. The community will proceed to do because they are one directly affected in the issues. So what we are doing now, even other cities doesn't like to do the mapping. We try to connect some cities who are opening this kind of process because we believe that this initiative really strengthened the process of the community. So the gathering of information is in the level of the community is very important. Having a profile in the community is very important because we are not just assuming that we are this number or this is our population, but by doing the mapping, you are very confident to say, this is our population, this is our children who are going to school. So a lot of information was easily be answered by the community, which during the last many years, we don't have like that profile of the community. So what we have experienced now is that a lot of universities now is going to us to partner about this kind of process, but still the danger is how they will really facilitate this kind of mapping process, building designs, participatory workshop in doing the design of the houses and the site planning. So we learned a lot from the Community Architects Network, but since the next generations, we are also sharing this knowledge. It's like if they are not really grounded in the history of the community, still they lost the track of how we value this kind of process. So as we go on, we are mentoring the new generation. So are doing internship in our institution, in the federation. We try to really value the culture of the community. They have to respect the community. They have to integrate themselves in the community to better understand what's happening in the community. Because sometimes the professional also leads the organization leads to a very chaotic situation, because sometimes professional dictates on how, and then because of our organization is very consultative and very participatory, sometimes if they feel that there's very strong professional, we will warn the professional also that maybe you have to consult the community first before doing something. So we would like to explore all of these things, not to have a template, but to explore other solutions that could adapt each community's initiative. That only we only have this kind of template for all the communities, because sometimes this kind of process is not applicable to other regions. So how do you improve the systems or the tools that could adapt to the community? So what we learned is that we don't have a very one solution for all the community, but you have to explore many solutions that could also address the issue of the community. So you cannot say that this is the solutions that we are doing in that city, but sometimes it's not applicable in that city. So what we learned is that we have to be very flexible, as what the CAN co-creation is, that how we really co-create this kind of process that could also that could community adapt this kind of processes. So maybe what I have to end with a thank you for the Community Architects Network, that they are continue supporting the federations, and we had a lot of success in terms of community that been helped by the CAN, and then we gain also some recognition from the city, and now building our partnership at the regional level, at the national level, and at the city level. So maybe we can continue, and then when you show the presentation, it's a lot of Philippines experience that will show that the experience is evolving in the Philippines, and we are happy to be part of the Community Architects Network.
First of all, I just like to congratulate all of you to have this opportunity to be together. To be together anywhere, this is already one important thing, and also to learn and to find direction. Direction not only for ourselves, but direction for our country and our Asian society. And this is related to the question that Asia has encountered a really very fast transformation. We are in a rather confused situation. Where are we going? We are in the crossroad of our strong Asian culture, our national culture, and the new society, which influence everything in our life so rapidly, including planning and architecture, and the people, definitely. So in this confusing state, where are we going, and what should be our role to contribute positively, proactively to this change? Yeah? As we know that when the system has developed in our city this day, it is not the people in the city too much who can say, who can be a part of the bigger change. Yeah? It is the developer, it is the government policy, it is the people who have money who determine the development direction from small spot, small part, small area into a bigger area and the whole city and the whole country, definitely. Our city planning doesn't seem to work that well. It's in the book. And if it is working, it filled with a lot of exception. Not exception for the poor. And it could be changed or lobby and so on. So we are in a very confusing transformation to find what are the identity of our people and our society. And out of this transformation, I think we, architect, planner, and young professionals, may have to be the saver, may have to play a really very important role, because Asia is perhaps the only region now that economic growth is so much, so fast, and has a big momentum. Nobody can stop that. But how could we develop ourselves from our own roots, our own character, and develop with our people? It's not something that we develop. Our society, a lot of construction going on, a lot of infrastructure, but our people have no place to stay. Our people have less and less power. It shouldn't be like that. So what would be the role of the professional? What would be the role of the planner out of this maze, out of this unclear identity of our cities and our society? Yeah. In our life, architect, planner can have a great fortune, yeah? Because the rich love us. Yeah? They give you a good work, good pay. Yeah? And some of us are, and we can also do that function, all right, in a better way. But another function which is lacking completely is the role of the planner, to decide, to be a part of the reshaping, a part of the transformation on the ground with our people. This is the role of the government, and the government doesn't seem to play the role that very actively. So we need planning. We need good people. We need capable people. We need understanding people to be on the ground with our people, with our society. If you look across the city, how many planned things happen? How many planned things happen in a city area? Few. Yeah, like this building, yes. Looks strange. So it means some architect must have a great fun doing that. But apart from that, no. Especially the people who are not being included in the system of the city or the way forward of the whole society. Then they also need planning. Even our rural community, you go to the rural community, rural provinces, all the things that happen is not happen by planner. Not any planner, it happened by itself. You have the river, you have the canal, you can grow something, they grow it, you know. And then the village form and so on. No planning. But planning can be a part of that. Planning can make it better. Planning can help reshape not only the form, the physical form, but the form of the community, the form of the relationship, the form of how we would like our good, strong society to be. Our good, strong people, our good relationship between people and environment and many other things to be. It can be planned. No planning this day. It's go all by itself. Yeah? And our good people who have some knowledge, we do our role only in certain part of the society. We help the richer to be the richer. Yeah? But where are the role of the planning on the ground? Yeah? So I think this is something which is so important, how we would use this workshop to be a platform that all of you who come from different places would look into this aspect and see how important it is, our role to contribute to this transformation and make this change an Asian change, our national change, our people's change, a change that has a proper direction, a change that has more integrated and positive value for all. Yeah? Not a change for a few, not include a few and exclude so many. Yeah? It's not the right change. It's very simple. You plan for something and then you ignore so many things. Yeah? It's not planning. Planning means everything, right? Planning means everything. Planning is a giving process. It's not a taking process. It's same as development. Development, a good development is not just to ask what I can get, how I can have. No. Development is something, it's a process to give, to share, to balance. No? Same as planning. So how will be the role of the professional in this very important juncture? Either a mess and go to the direction which is very, very unclear, which is no root, which is no identity. Or we look at the thing clearer, we understand it, we adjust ourselves and we play the role with our people, with our society, and we adjust what is not right to be the right direction. Father George, who's a Jesuit, we all know him. He visits Asian countries every year, I think, up to now. One of the things he said many things, but one of the things he said is that I have visited so many countries in Asia, and I have learned that in this country, in fact, not very many people are seriously doing the work of development with the people. Yeah? You can count, yeah, within your hand, not so many. There are many, of course, but this so many means that the people who actually work with the people and can actually make big change. Big change is possible by even small number of people who understand and bring yourself forward to work on that in a serious manner. We can make big change. Any single person here can make a lot of change. And in making a lot of change, making a lot of contribution to the transformation of the society, of the planning, of the system, we also transform ourselves. We also transform ourselves. Every single thing that we contribute is also contribute to ourselves. It's like the tree. Huh? The bigger tree it is, the deeper root it would become. Huh? So when we talk about contribution or our participation, our giving process to the society, it is in fact our contribution to ourselves, to the deeper understanding, to a stronger soul, a stronger human being we are. It's also our journey to be a stronger person, for our own self and for the larger society. So I feel our professionals have an important role to play in this transformation. Otherwise, we become the victim of the transformation. Like our people on the ground, community, poor people are the victims. And not only the poor, I think the larger society. We accuse each other that this group is not good, that is not contribute, is not democratic, that is bad. People love to accuse each other. When you see the phenomenon of people accuse each other too much, it means the system is wrong. Huh? System is wrong. Transformation go in the wrong direction. So what would be the right direction? Right direction, listen to each other, bringing interest of everybody into an active process, bring it into a joint development possibility. Everybody have a role, everybody have parts, everybody enjoy the change. This needs somebody to help fix it together in a proper manner. It is planning. But planning cannot be just a planning on the physical part. We people study planning architecture, we love physical, to plan things. But that is the surface. No? We need to plan up to all the layers under the surface, all the structure below the surface, and the root. And look at all the layers and how we would fix it. Between this group, other group, different interests, different needs. City change every day, every single day. There have been slum community who say, "Don't touch me." You ask any slum in the world, please, now is the chance we should improve something. We have the money. They said, no, absolutely. Leave us alone. We are happy as it is. Just don't touch. Is it possible? No. City change every day. You cannot live on the insecure, illegal setting. Then the street is cutting past to your community every day without changing. We need change. Richer community, general society, all the poor people. Poor people need change. We cannot stay as it is. How to change? How to change it in such a way that we are not becoming another set of victimization, yeah? Which is something that somebody decide for you. And actually, in staying in the community, you have something. You have friends, you have group, you have some system here and there. You have somebody to assist this and that. With the new change, now you have to live individually, far away. So some of the good things that already exist, you also lost it. Of course, you can rebuild it in the new place, but it's more difficult. So change in such a way that life is better for everybody. So how do we make it possible? Yeah. And everybody needs to look into this direction, not only the planner, all the different sections, different actors and so on. But we are the one who can fix all that. Physical aspect, social, economic, environment, culture, moral, whatever. We can put all the things together and find the new dynamics of change that can interpret all these elements into a positive aspects of the group themselves and interaction between the group and the larger society. And that is really a very honor, very important, very graceful profession we are working and going to do after this workshop, I hope. Yeah.
Still have another question and focusing on our role, because it's quite clear that our role is quite different from a mainstream architect. But at the same time, when I listen to a lot of seniors talking about the role of architect, we tend to say that we're not different from mainstream. Actually, we are doing the same job. That means architecture in general should serve the people, either for the rich or the poor. But for us, it seems like the boundary is quite unclear, which is a good thing. But then for the outsider, for people outside our group, they still think of us as isolation. When we talk about community architect, they will say, oh no, I'm not a community architect. They seem to be threatened by participation, they seem to be threatened by empowerment, they seem to be threatened by people. How can we overcome that and facilitate the outsider to understand that actually our process actually just include the people in the design process? It's not different from what we did with the rich actually. But they don't understand that. How can we break the boundary? I think for us it's quite clear that we are architects. We're not trying to label ourselves community architect, but there are a lot of people going to label us in order to isolate us actually from the practice. So how can we deal with these challenges?
No, I'm very glad that this is a very specific question, and I think we can deal with it in a very specific kind of way. Now, you ask a few questions. First question is, and that's a good question to ask, whom do architects traditionally work for? Who are their clients? And if you see historically, and I think in all societies, especially in Asia and everywhere, their clients essentially are the elite, or the rich, or the political kind of clients, or institutional clients. And therefore, essentially, architecture as it is practiced and seen, essentially has been for select few. It was never for masses, not the masses. When I was a student of architecture and I mentioned I dropped out, I think we used to say this, that for an architect in India, villages don't exist. And therefore 70% of the people don't exist. In cities, low middle classes, slums don't exist. And therefore essentially working for upper 1%, upper 0.5%. And that's a choice that you make. Now if you make the choice of rejecting 99.5% of the society, you become, you get branded, you have an image, your structure, your formation that you relate, you deliver, and you work with in that particular fashion. So this is the one part. The choice that you make. Second thing is the choice that you do not make. Now I don't know whether you know this, but there's a very interesting statistics available certainly in India, that all buildings that get built in the country, only 6 to 7% get designed by architects. 93% don't get designed by architects. So the question that you ask is, do they require services of this kind of people? Do they, and if they really were to kind of go to the conventional architects, do they have the capability to provide those services? And therefore, early years, and I think when I dropped out, we started talking about what was called deprofessionalization of the professional, the relearning and relearning. The whole process of seeing your service not as something you work for people, but you work with people. And therefore your tool have got to be very different. Your attitude has to be very different. You've got to start looking at very differently. So this is the second part of the question. There's a third part. And I think this is something which worries everyone the most, and where I think this particular group is probably make a major contribution. And this whole aspect of alienation. Like say for instance, if you really examine the way you studied architecture, say for instance, what was indigenous? What is local? What comes from community? What comes from people's wisdom? Nothing. We in India have a very famous shastra called Vastu Shastra. It's a science which determines the manner in which buildings are designed. It is the norms. It's essentially, there's a huge amount of science in it. There's a lot of other aspects. If you ask me this question, did anyone ever teach you this in architecture school? No. Did anyone ever mention it? No. And therefore, if you really look at this whole aspect of alienation that's taking place, it's something very important to look at, because societal challenges essentially lies there. We have the new statistics which come out, in the last 5 years. It's not really fast. That India has a housing deficit of 18.9 billion houses, say for instance. You'll be very surprised that 98.2% of them belongs to the very poor, what we call economically weaker section and low income groups. Question is, are your architects equipped to deal with their needs? An answer is no. Is there anything in their training where they could provide the services? Answer is no. So that's a third of the part of the whole question that you're asking. And the fourth part, in my understanding, is, and this is something that Somsook mentioned, this is something that I think I suggested, hinted when I spoke first. If we really look at Asian urbanization processes, if you look at the way in which cities are growing and developing, if you look at urbanization processes and the manner in which it is being channeled, you'll find out that we have a huge problem of not being able to see our challenges in our own context. This is what Somsook says, Asian response to Asian challenge. Let me give you a few examples. First is Habitat 3 is taking place in the next 3 months' time. Now, Habitat 3 is exclusively urban. We in Asia, even though we are urbanizing very fast, still 60% of the people are in the villages. If you look at India, when we say 31% of the people are in the cities, we're talking about 350 million people. At the same time, 69% of the people are in the villages, and therefore 830 million people are in the villages. Why aren't we, and Habitat Conference comes after 20 years. Why is it exclusively an urban conference? Are rural settlements not in crisis? Don't rural settlements need, I think, looking into? Don't they require investment? Don't they require institutional development? So this is once again, you are not even asking a question. I was talking to the minister in the country, I said, why aren't you asking this question? They said, that sort of a thing. So this is one. Look at the second dimension of urbanization, urban development processes. Asian cities are essentially product of informal processes. We are informal in our delivery system, we are informal in our production system, we are informal in the manner we connect, and then informal in a manner in which we live and work. Informality is the first thing which is denied, which is neglected, we are hostile to. How can you build cities which are against the grain of the people, which is against the very system which makes people what they are? But we have been taught to be ashamed of informality. We have been taught to run away from it. We have been taught to bulldoze our informal housing. And we have been taught to throw away our informal sector economy. Now, this is at a time, and I know the statistics I know is only about India, 93% jobs in our country are informal. And almost 70% of the housing that happens in our cities, if you put everything together, is informal. So if you really, everything you do is anti-informal, what kind of cities are going to be? What kind of happiness is going to be? So this is the second part. Third part that I would like to look at is the whole issue of sustainability. And look where this definition comes from. Who defines it? How do you deal with it? I personally feel that if sustainability is confined to, if you are going to kind of solve the sustainability problem in the cities by putting solar plants on your roof, you're sadly mistaken. Just to give a small example, it's very, very small example. I was born and brought up in a very small village. And I'm not talking about 2 months or 6 months, but first 17 years of my life, I've lived in a village. First time ever dial a telephone, I was 17 years old. Last year I made a presentation in China on sustainability, and therefore I did calculation how much water my family used. And I did calculation how many jars we had, and how many times my mother went to the village well, how many times my aunt went to the village well. And I found out that I don't think we ever use more than 25 liters per capita per day in 17 years that I grew up in a village. Now we are talking about, and mine is not a stunted growth at all. So if you could survive and grow well at 25 liters of water, why do you have to build a city at 200 liters per capita per liter? The moment you start talking about cities at 200 liters per capita per liter, it's a non-sustainability inbuilt in the sustainability process itself. And therefore, I think you also have got to look at what really would make sustainable in the context. And I think we in Asia are very innovative. We have very frugal ways of working. We know how to save. We know how to recycle. And I think all those processes need to come back if we really were to kind of deal with Asian urbanization. And the last thing that I'd like to point out is our numbers are staggering. We're not talking about small numbers here. If you take China, if you take India, we're talking about 1,250 million people. Now, if this society has become consumerist society, as West is, what kind of development would it be, and what will happen to the earth in its carrying capacity? So the point that one is making is this, that we require major correction in the manner in which we develop our cities, we look at urbanization, we look at economic growth, and we look at the whole system that is coming up. And as a matter of fact, people are sitting here are the real hope. Governments don't have time, they are firefighting. Academic institutions, I think, doing a little bit, but they're not really deeply in questioning this. And therefore, people like this, civil society, younger people who are rejecting system are the ones who essentially are the ones who could ignite, I think, new inquiries, and probably, I think, throw in new kind of solutions in terms of what kind of urbanization we need in Asia and how do we move forward with that.
Yeah. What we are doing in the Philippines is that, as you said, it's hard to say, to invite interns, architects to this kind of process, but what we are doing is that we engage in the university just to give orientations of what we are doing, and then if they are interested, we can go to the federations, and just like very open learning to these interns and students, and we are not expecting too much from them that they can come back or they will stay, but it so happened that after they get their professional degree, they work with the federation. So maybe that's how we encourage these students, because we tell them that this is a two-way sharing. Like, if you share your ideas to the community, they learn. And then if you get some ideas from the community also, they can have also some learnings about how the community live, how the community plan, how the community address the issue. So that's the way how we invite the students and professionals in joining the movement, because CAMPE is a movement of the professionals in the Philippines. And we are not too much expecting, because we know that there's a lot of opportunities for this professional to earn more than doing volunteer works in the federations or in the Philippine Alliance. But what we also learned, that if they really happy doing this in the community, they are not more value of what they earn, but the value of what they really extend help to the community. And sometimes there's a lot of pressure from the family, especially to the parents, but along the way, the parents really understand how these professionals also being the instrument of empowering communities, how these professionals facilitate development in the community. So there's a lot of changes also, but we only inspire them by giving orientation, bringing them in an exchange program to the communities. And that's the time they will discern themselves if they will go to volunteer in the movement, or they will stay, or they will work with us. So we will let them know the values of how they work with the community, rather than we have to force them to work with us, but the heart is not there. So maybe it's also a commitment of being with the community.
Maybe I give a small example. When I was young, when I was just like your age, and after the study, I was so active and want to find a way how I can help solve the problem of the poor, of this and that, and so really active. And you get stuck because people have been facing eviction here and there. No? So in one of the eviction case, I was there, and you see very clearly that the rich people who own the land or who give the land to the contractor, they have the right, they have legal right, they have whatever the legal system give them. Correct. But people were living there for 30, 40, 50 years. They were living there without any right. And then our friend NGO trying to organize the people with all the good intention to organize, fight for our right for the whole land, because we are the one who live in this land. So it's all conflicting point and claim. And the young architect, who are extremely super active. We were there. One of the good things about our profession, which I share even at that time, is that we are the solution seeker. We want solution. We want to help. And this is quite special because everybody stay at some corner. You have your claim like this. This land should be mine. This land should be legalized, this and that. So you keep fighting for 5 years and evicting a lot of good poor people out of the land. So I was there when the community have been evicted for quite a while and not very many people left. In terms of professional solution, it's very easy. We just share the land. Yeah. Why not? So I start talking to the landlord, talking to the people. So being a solution seeker, it has to be a solution for everybody. For everybody. At least everybody accept certain part of that. So we have to see how the landlord or the developer look at it, how the people look at it. And when you say people, it's a nice word, big word, but people mean different things. People like Ruby say one thing, people like another person will say different thing, but people can say the same thing. There's the art of getting the people to say the same thing. Okay, we have to find a way how people would look into the alternative of change. And I look at all this process, the way to search for the real function of the land, what could be a possible solution for everybody, acceptable solution for everybody. And little by little, we are the one who work between all these conflicting actors and conflicting claims to find an acceptable compromise solution for all. Yeah? So I've been working on what would be the possible land sharing. Is it like this? If it's like that, it's like that. Finally, more or less, they could accept the landlord, still very strict, but the people accept that they can stay in 20% of the former land. And approximately the plan is something like this and that. We okay. But the landlord are not okay. And I would say that many of our profession will stop at this point. I have done my work. And the landlord doesn't agree with that. Huh? So, I don't know. This is beyond my capacity. Finish. No, I would say it's quite important that we don't finish. We need to see how to make it possible. And I encourage you to look into this aspect also. What are the politics? What are the decision making? Then I went to talk to the governor of the National Housing Authority. He made a call to the district authority. Try to move up a little in order that the influence that would soften the stand of the landlord or the developer would happen. And then there are bigger room for the different parties to agree. That project was agreed finally by the landlord and the people. Is the first land sharing project. Yeah? On planning of how the people will live together is very, very interesting. I will tell this story in another example. But just to conclude this one, that actually, if professional, if architect want to help find possible solution for all, it's possible. And if we look at it, after some years, you are changing the situation from a war state into a peaceful state. From selfish claim of different parties into a compromise solution. From taking model into a giving model. Yeah? I asked the landlord after some time, after the people construct the house, by giving people the land, it means the landlord have to sell the land cheap price, huh? Not the market price as they do their big chop house scheme. This has to be cheaper. People have to move into this share land quickly, so the developer can take the land and do whatever they like. Collaboration about the infrastructure, such and such. So it changed from conflict to cooperation. And after the people construct the house for about 1 year or something, I had the opportunity to meet the developer and the landlord again. I asked, so in the beginning you refuse strongly. You talk about the people so badly. You scold them. You know, all your attitude about the people was really bad. And he meant it. But after this solution, he said, oh, people are not so bad. Are not too bad. And it's very good for them. He is happy that he is able to help the poor. Yeah, which is a normal answer, we can understand that. But you see, people could change. Even the rival, the opposite group of people who are fighting, it can be changed. Attitude change from negative to positive and so on. And the solution, there are lots of people visiting that project after some time. And that can be done by any one of you here in this room. Yeah. Another example, I was also involved in another land sharing project where people already make negotiation for certain part of the land. And they feel very proud that they were able to make a plan. But it's a very bad plan, sorry to say. Because the leader doesn't have a lot of knowledge, and the plan was not the right kind of plan. The NGO who also know about the plan was saying, you shouldn't touch it because this is the idea of the poor people. It's something like divine. If the poor are doing something, that you have to take as what it is. Yeah. I know planning, and I think this is not a good plan. But if I say so, I be bombarded by not only the people but also the NGO friends. So we have a workshop. We have a training workshop, and we bring that plan and the area into a workshop and let the group in the workshop discuss and help adjust it. Oh, it comes with a lot of good ideas. And people see, when we present to the community, they see a lot of possibility. And after that small workshop, I took over. And now we would like to see how we help plan it for the community. So community were very active. They want, now they could see that there are possible alternative to the plan. The word planning is a lot richer than what they know before. Okay? So they come, and every time they came, we prepare about 10 plans, putting on the wall. And people came like a professor in the university, comment, I don't like the street of this, I think we should live like that, you know. By discussing among themselves, we also understand their politics. See? The relationship, the system in the community, all coming in the discussion. So from a young architect who didn't know very many things, who don't have any tactic how to work with the community. Only we work with the people on this alternative plan. Little by little, we happen to know a lot of things from the community and the way they think, how they regroup, how the different groups are thinking about the others, and how they want their new kind of community to be. That requires 4 or 5 discussions And I would say that community use something like 200 plans, a draft plan of the wall, and they enjoy criticize those plans. Yeah? And every time they criticize, you have a lot of understanding on their relationship, on the way they think, on culture, on grouping, on politics, on finance, on everything. This is what I'm trying to say, that although we don't have a lot of knowledge how to deal with the complex community system, but we can find a way that we little by little understand the content, the function, the which, and the relationship. And we also able to see how we can help strengthen that. Planning doesn't mean physical plan only, but how physical and social would go together, and how the new kind of system in the community could be happening. By doing the planning process, we don't need to teach, you know. Sometimes people who finish university have a little bit this problem because we feel like we have a little higher educated knowledge, and we want to tell how you should live, how you should group, how you should socialize. No, don't bother about that too much. Sometimes we don't have too many things to offer because our way of thinking, our life and their life are different. But how to make it better, we have to change it into a question. No need to be an answer from us, but we can ask a question. But how are you going to make it better? You're going to have a group like before? Better mean what? Better mean what? What is better? Your better mean what? You can keep asking. Of course, poor people don't have a lot of vision. They're not visionary, okay? They're realists. Huh? But the question to push them to look a little more to the future, to the new possibility, will help visualize the exist picture of how things are supposed to be. Yeah? And this planning can help. So we are the one who help make this kind of process possible. We don't need to be the high-end professional. We don't need to be 30 years working already. Any young person can do this work. Yeah? Only you understand your role properly. And the important role, I would say, not only ordinary role, very important. To be the one that help fix the thing between the different approach, and to harmonize a new harmony among the people, among physical, social, economy, environment, and to make a better, stronger community, better relationship as well. It's not only physical that we feel we achieve it. How the physical will lead to what will be your group, what your group is going to do together. Huh? What about the children? You know, you can ask all the questions in order to bring the issue up, and how the different issue which is not attended to can be on the surface and can be put together into a more stronger system. So this is the role of the planner, which I think everybody can do if you want to do.
Okay, I think it's a pity we have so little time to reflect on this, but last questions. And as we have a lot of youngsters here, like younger generation, not youngsters, we are young, right? Younger generation compared to our senior. And I'm pretty sure that 40 years ago and 50 years ago, it must be much more difficult than today. But we, and like some of us, I'm pretty sure we have different stage of the practice. Like somebody is interested to like jump into this community practice, or somebody decided, okay, I'm gonna jump to this practice and I'm struggling, or I want to know, I really like and got excited by this practice, but I'm not sure about my future. Should I be yoga teacher instead of this practice? my architect friends think of me as a spiritual leader, or my mother and my mom not sure what I'm doing. I thought we study architecture. Is there anything as a senior you've experienced these challenges for more than 40 years or 50 years? Is there anything that you would like to tell us? What should we keep in mind? And compared to 50 years ago, I'm pretty sure there's some optimistic that we can focus on. But of course, there's also some challenges today, right? But what should we keep as our resource? Like, we developed so much compared to 40 years ago, but at the same time, there's a lot of challenges that we sitting here also experiencing. So what should we, like, very maybe a few minutes for the younger generation, what should we keep in mind? How could we move forward to? What are the questions we should keep asking ourselves? And how can we encourage and actually empower ourselves to keep doing this job?
Yeah, maybe I have in my mind when Father Norberto still alive, he said that these youngsters should contribute to the 99% poor people in their profession. Like, we know that these community people cannot afford to pay an architects or engineers to design or to build their house, but how they can also help these 99% poor people, and they can also give their profession to a vulnerable group, and not only earning to the private sector, but also helping the most vulnerable people in the community. And second, maybe it's to think that how they can help in this kind of development that very fast, but still poor people have to crawl for this development, and then there's still the poor people still very poor people, and the rich people become richer. So how they can also help this kind of development that can equate also. There's a balanced equation of the poor people and the rich people. So sometimes we are campaigning or advocating the university to teach the community planning in their school. So one school partner in the university now integrating their curriculum in the university about this community planning and everything. So that's also part of the engagement that we have in the university, but still we are longing for some university to see how we can help even students to become an intern in our process, because it's a big help also on how they will determine their future, if they can work with us part-time or they can still have their own private work, but still have the time to see how they can help poor people in the community.
I think this is very important profession. Yeah, although the society doesn't make a particular space or level, but as Kirtee mentioned, and I said it too, the society has a really big gap, and there's a need for this profession to fill in, to be creative. How we fill this gap and make it a stronger society. Definitely, there is a big market. There's a need. There's a big market. There's a big political role also of this profession. Only the society doesn't make it, so we have to create this space ourselves. Right? If I look around Asia, Thailand also. Oh, I see. Everywhere there's a need for this role to fill in with the people, the area that this man is very good and he wants to do something with the city. Or if we have this community architect working with the city, look at the whole city and how the different parts can, anything, so many. That's a great need. Not are also very busy. And we have plenty, so many kinds of work, but we don't have enough people to work. So I assure you for that there is a really big and growing market on that. But because the system doesn't understand, it's a very sectoral system manage our society, so they can understand. We have to create this, make it acceptable, and make the space bigger, because otherwise the gap will be bigger. Yeah. I myself never have a question when I was working on housing as architect. Oh, this is the area I learned. Oh, this is what I want to find all my life. To be community architect. Now not architect much, more management, this and that. But this is my way, this is my area. I have no doubt about that. If you don't have the space, I create the space. You don't have the platform for me, I make the platform. There's no road, I make the road. Yeah. And from that time, not very many people working on this. When we start asking the two young professionals to help the work with the community in Uttaradit, all the time they ask this question: what will be my future? What will be my career? Kind of, yeah. You have to find yourself, but I can only tell you that there is a great need for this. Once there is a great demand and a great need, why bother about that? We can always find the direction, yeah. And we don't want this sectoral kind of society to lead us all the time. We are making change. So if we believe that we have the will, we have the intention, and we have the ability, we have the drive, then space can be created quite easily. If they don't have this level, they would have it. Not so long, definitely, yeah. Because the society needs us. Okay.
Yeah, this is I think, a very interesting question, and I'm glad you asked this question. I personally feel there are 4 questions that you got to ask in the context of answering this question.
Can we have
I'll take 1 minute. Is there a professional challenge in this work? Second thing, is there a professional prestige in this work? Third question, is there a professional opportunity in this work? And the fourth is there a professional money in this work? I've answered this question for last 50 years, including last month to my own son, who is an architect. And he wants to do conventional architecture, and he's very bright, he enjoys doing it, and he doesn't see any reason why he shouldn't do it. And whenever we talk about this, I always say this, that I see there's a huge professional challenge in this. Designing a 250 square foot house, designing a house costing 60,000 rupees, is an immense professional challenge. You've got to really dig into it. You've got to find new ways of thinking. You've got to find new materials. You've got to find new way of relating with people. You've got to essentially become a new person in the search. But it's a huge professional challenge. It's not a small challenge. In terms of prestige, I personally feel if I was a conventional architect, I wouldn't have all the 5-star status that I've enjoyed over the last 30 years. Because the whole question, if you make something out of it, if you really go beyond the small 4 walls of that particular issue, but see it in the larger context of policy, larger context of program, larger context of societal change, there is a huge prestige involved in what we're talking about. Is there a professional opportunity? I would say endless. If you build a house as an architect, you're talking about a client you're building for. When I design for a house, I'm talking about a class of people, poor of the city, poor of the country, poor of the world. There's huge prestige involved in saying it that way. That is their professional money. My understanding is this, that when you start looking at money, you start looking at how do you support yourselves, and what is the larger universe that you start belonging to. And the moment I think about that particular stage happens in your career, in your work, in your growth part, even that begins to fall in place. And therefore I think, I personally feel there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because in this way, you're working for the mankind. You're working with societal problems, not building a small house for someone, however rich you may be. There is a huge scope for creativity. And there's a huge scope for expression as well. So I do not see this at all a disadvantaged choice that you make, and therefore something your father, your mother, or your husband to worry about. This is a great choice you are making. There's a great opportunity. There's much prestige, and you could go very far doing this, honestly.
Thank you.